I'd like to welcome everyone to the Springdale Art Review Board. This is a special meeting. The date is Monday, October 27th, 2025. The time is 12:02 p.m. Joining us today from the town, we have Tom Dancy, Niall Conley, and Aaron Emerson. At the table, or the dais here today, we've got Mike Altucker, myself, Jack Burns, Lisa Benham, and Jim Walsh. So we have, well, do we have any general announcements? No? And would someone make a motion to approve the agenda?
I so move.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, our first item today is a discussion item. It's continuation of discussion about drafting a public art plan for Springdale. And Niall is going to get us started, but before we get started on that, I'd like to thank you, Niall, for coordinating our site visit. I think, at least for me, the outcome, and we're sorry we missed you, Jim, but I think the kind of takeaway for me was we have lots of options. So that was really great.
And I think you prioritized very helpfully.
Yeah, you did, and thank you. I read all of that, and before I left, I took a little tour and then sent Niall photos. So, but thank you for doing that, and it looked great.
Yeah. Okay, Niall.
Okay, great. Thank you. So the purpose of this agenda item is to continue drafting the public art master plan. So as you mentioned a couple of weeks ago, the board took a mobile tour around the town, and the purpose was to investigate what locations in town would be most suitable for public art. And so I've summarized the findings of that in the staff report that was circulated last week. So for this meeting, I'd suggest the board use the meeting to do the following two things. So firstly, to start populating the public art master plan template. So I'd recommend we go through it section by section, and I have a Word version that I can be taking notes in, and then I can polish that later. And as we go through that, we can address questions such as how we will work with property owners and how we might run a call for public art process or those sorts of questions. And then secondly, I think it would be worthwhile talking about how we can get public engagement or public input on the plan. So you all as a board have previously expressed a desire to get input from the public on the plan. And so there's different options available to us. We could do surveys or a drop-in session. We could do theme one of our 2 cents events on the public art plan or something like that. So there's different options that you might want to consider. So just to summarize, my recommendation is that the board use this session to continue drafting the plan and to think about the best way to engage the community in the process.
Okay, sounds good. Let me ask one question. I know it has come up several times, and maybe it's something we should start thinking about. In addition to this is creating a placeholder in the town budget so that we've got some funds out there at least to work with.
Yeah, I think that would be appropriate, to make that recommendation.
Okay.
I think we had talked about a sum of, what, $10,000, if that would be possible?
I think that was maybe if we had $10,000, what might we do with it? Was that a little bit more like the shape of things? We're definitely in a chicken and egg sort of thing, I think, as I understand it.
It seems to me if you don't ask, you don't get.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where we are in the budget cycle.
If we knew
Yes.
about $10,000, that would be great. I think it was like a hypothetical for,
Right,
think
but
about
we've
things.
got RAP money possible,
Mhm.
and this would be a separate ask for, but my one question would be, if we did get an earmark fund of whatever amount, is it a zero budget, does it go away the next year, or would it be an account that would build?
So my understanding is that we would make that request each year. And if it was not used, we could make a request to carry it forward as part of the budget exercise. Would that be how it would work, Tom?
So you can do it a couple of ways. One is, as Niall describes, that it just zeroes out every year, right? So you get $10,000 if that's the amount that you request. And if you spend it, great. If not, then that goes away, but you could request it the following year. Another option, and we've done this in the past for some things, is to create a fund that accrues over time. So a number of years ago, we started putting money towards an open space fund, and that we would make a contribution each year as part of the budget that goes to the open space fund, and then that money remains until it builds to a critical mass that you can actually do something with, right? So you could do that as well. You could say, hey, we want the town council to put an item on their budget each year, again, whatever sum you think is appropriate, $10,000. And maybe you don't do anything for 4 or 5 years, and so then you grow the account to $50,000, and then you have an account that starts being meaningful. So you could do it either of those two ways.
What would you call like the open space fund, what's that called?
Just a dedicated fund. So
Just a dedicated fund?
yeah, so the budget each year, you're saying, okay, $10,000, we're gonna put that into this other little holding fund, and then we're gonna use those funds in the future at some point. So we do that with a number of different funds. Your budget every year has to zero out, right? But you can then have a set aside that says, no, we've got a little savings account here, in this case for public art.
Is there any reason to do the first of what you described? Because it always seems to me like that describes the chaotic situation of water rights, which is use it or lose it, which then creates absurd and panicked policy that isn't necessarily well thought out. So I can't see why we wouldn't do it the second way, where we have time and are rewarded for not just spending for the sake of spending, et cetera.
It certainly gives you more flexibility and more options.
Yeah, so there's no upside on the first one that I don't know about, apart from maybe that's all that's available. or whatever.
Correct.
And I have a question. I think in our plan here, we maybe talk about donations. If there were any donations, monetary donations, could that go in that same fund? So that would carry over, say someone wanted to give $100 or someone wanted to give money towards the fund, can that go into that account or not? Or would that be a separate account?
Yeah, I believe it could, and I'm getting a little bit far afield of my area of expertise here, so, but I believe, Jim, that is a possibility, that, you get a donation and that just goes straight to that fund and then can be used at some point in the future.
Great.
So it sounds like everybody's pretty comfortable with starting with 10,000.
Well, I'd ask for more.
I mean, I personally think that sounds a little low, but I mean, you've got to start somewhere.
Is that especially, go ahead, sorry.
I'm sorry, Lisa. If we could get more, obviously, I would be in favor of it because that gives us more flexibility. But if this seems to be something brand new, and correct me if I'm wrong, at least it's a starting point. And, you can ask for a whole lot of money and get nothing, or you can just say, hey, this is something we really are very interested in. The city council seems to have, or has said that they really are seeing Springdale as an art center and are very supportive of public art. And so I would see it as a start. I would love to see more, but how much more?
Well, I mean, I guess for me, it's, we seem to be moving pretty quickly on getting a plan in place, and then it really puts us in a good position to get the wheels in motion to start looking at actually putting a piece of sculpture, installed somewhere. So, again, the idea in my mind is that it is a placeholder. It's not a guarantee. We don't have the money yet until we actually have a budget discussion. But I would say a little bit more is probably better. I mean, I think we all know that it is not cheap to install
No.
a piece of sculpture.
Well, Jack, are you thinking 15,000, 20,000?
15 to 20.
15 to 20? Okay, I think that's a range. And I would certainly support the $15,000 to $20,000 range.
Can you?
What do you think, Mike?
I'm in that thought process, and I don't know that we need to define that today.
We don't.
It's in the funding stuff. Backup step, I went and read that Ivans. Let's copy it. It is well done.
Yeah.
It's straightforward. There's stuff in there we don't need.
Yeah.
But my fear is we're racing down a policy that's incomplete, or will be incomplete. And that just invites arguments and conflict and all of the above.
So explain
You're saying
that.
copy the Ivans, is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, it's a great form,
Sure.
I think.
I just couldn't quite hear what you said. Yeah.
But anyway, I'm just questioning our process. If we're just coming up with a template, just kind of bullet points, is that then going to go to the council and say, here's what we're doing, all head full, or?
Well,
what
I mean,
happens?
I kind of will provide an update to council, not as an agenda item, but more as general discussion, and just to give them a heads up, here's where we're going. That would be, if there's any concern at that point, somebody can raise it, but that's kind of my thought is that I just share that.
I'm just nervous, cautious about a policy that we create that's not complete, and we know it's not complete.
So when you say it's not complete, though, what do you mean by that?
Defining what art is, the process of selection. I mean, we have bullet points to that. The funding process, the decommissioning process, all those things we've talked about.
The gotcha loopholes that didn't
Yeah,
get thought about.
Because, I mean, our first meeting was dealing with a hole in the policy, and we spent 3 meetings on that. I think we can prevent a lot of that if we are thoughtful.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see any rush in getting anything before the council.
Okay.
Let's take our time so that we have a good, solid draft.
Okay.
That's right.
All right, just so I understand where we're going.
And Mike, I see it not being too complicated. We talked about that. I read the other ones that Neil gave us a copy of. Those were quite lengthy and very complicated. I think if we make it pretty, like bullet points, simple, I think it can be accomplished in a fairly short period
I
of
think
time.
you're right on the outline, but the
Yeah.
devils are in the policy. And bad policies make bad decisions.
I
They make
understand.
conflicts, they make all the stuff we can avoid, I hope.
Yeah.
What does town palette mean, right? When there are two. Yeah.
Anyway, go ahead.
So Niall, do you want to just kind of lead us through this?
Yeah, I can certainly do that. So just go section by section, and I'll be taking notes here. So this is a general introduction, and I don't know whether this is really, we might write the introduction at the end, perhaps, because it's just some kind of general language I've inserted there. But if you have any thoughts on that at this point, I can take some notes and
I think myself, and we've had some discussions about what is public art in our previous meetings, but I think it belongs right up front. Are we talking about, what are we talking about? And is it performing arts? Is it lectures? Is it concerts? I I don't think that's what we're thinking, but if we don't define it, guess what? So somewhere in this, I think we should have a
Where was-
discussion.
There
the-
was,
yeah, the
one of you read something that might be in the town, which is something that
That's-
persists for at least 2 weeks, or
so-
minimum of 2 weeks. or-
Yeah, so the town, the mural policy, which is, it's the public art and murals policy. Tom has it right here, actually. That defines what public art is. So we can pull that across in here.
Right,
Well, I can just read it now, thanks, Tom. So the definition we have at the moment is any visual work of art displayed for 2 weeks or more in an open, publicly owned area or on the exterior of a public facility, inside any town-owned facility, in any areas designated as public areas or on private property, if the work of art is installed or financed either wholly or in part with town funds and with grants procured by the town. So it looks like it's kind of open to art that's inside, arts that's outside, that would
publicly
be.
accessed and physical objects, basically, right?
Yeah, so we can, I would suggest that we don't, because this is already defined in the adopted policy, we don't
Yeah.
redraft that, but we maybe just pull this text across in here so that we know what we're talking about when we talk about public art.
One quick question on that. Would donations be considered town funds? Or would we want to add that?
Yeah, that's a good point.
Well, Jack, let me ask clarification on that. Could be both financial and then actual, someone can make a donation of a piece of art or something, and I think we discussed that and a process for that. So are you talking about donations, financial donations?
What he read on what's considered part of public art is how it's financed. And I was just wondering if we wanted to include donations.
Okay.
Physical or cash.
So your question is if we use donations to purchase the art, is that public art? Or are those town funds, right?
Well, I thought I heard two fund sources. One is town funds and then grants.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if donations should be part of that.
Yeah, so if somebody, I think we may want to clarify that, as Mike says, the devil's in the details, and how to
Yeah.
clarify that, but I think it's kind of nuanced. If somebody makes a donation to the town and says, here's $100 for you to promote public art in the town, then that becomes town funds, right?
Right.
If somebody says, here's $100 and I want you to buy this specific piece and install it on a private property, I don't know that that is public art because that's all private funds on private property, right? So we may want to clarify that in the policy.
Yeah, I mean, I guess another thought would be, say we've got a public space that we want to place a piece of sculpture, and someone says, I want to donate money towards that. And
Or I want to donate the sculpture.
yeah, for that piece. And so, let's not get hung up. I'm sorry I'm bringing it up. I mean, maybe we can get into the details once we get a rough draft, so. But
Well, and to further confuse it, what if somebody wants to loan art?
yeah,
I would not be in favor
Yeah,
of
You can
loaning
have my
art.
sculpture for 5 years and I want it
Right.
back.
No, that's too it starts to make it too complicated. And then, we may be on the committee now, but 3 years from now, who knows? So I think, for me personally, no on any kind of loaning of anything.
So, we're way down the rabbit hole now.
I
But,
know.
so that's actually a pretty common practice.
I
As an artist, sometimes it's like, stop asking me to loan you things, just buy something or don't buy something. So a lot of towns do the loaning. So I guess now that I'm on the other side of the town, why wouldn't I say yes to that? Because at least we get some cool art for 5 years or something, right? I don't know what the hesitation would be, as long as we don't, like, spend $10,000 on a base that will be irrelevant later. I'm not, as an artist, I'm not terribly in love with that approach, but as a town, it sounds like not a bad way to go.
I think the first concern for me comes to liability. If it's damaged, then the town just bought it.
Depends on how it's.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, let's keep moving.
Yeah.
Okay. Um,
Sorry, I came.
No, this is
We're
all
all
good,
part of it.
this
Yeah,
is
we
all
are.
good stuff, and I'm making copious notes here. So, vision and goals, these were just some bullet points that I took them from other plans and just kind of other thoughts I had. Is there anything else you would want to add, or are these on the right track? Kind of, what are your thoughts on that?
I know the Ivans vision includes, I have to go back and read it, but it talks more about enhancing the landscape and the cultural values of Springdale or of Ivans, which I think we support.
I think that's a good start, what we got, though.
Yep, well, I do too.
Okay. Okay, so then we move on to the potential locations for public art. So the field trip covered that really, I think, pretty well. So you've identified the locations that you think have high potential, and then others that are maybe lower down the list. Yeah, how would you like to frame that? Would you like kind of a priority list, or just kind of leave it open? These are the locations that we think are good, and not kind of tie yourself into specifics?
I would say let's not prioritize, but interested in what other folks think.
Not prioritize not codify our list of priorities based on our tour?
Yeah,
I would.
yeah.
Well, I think we talked about, this is a great space up here, but no one really is gonna see it.
Right,
The priority was more along SR line.
yeah.
Right.
As I read it, I thought you'd already done that, more or less, lower, higher priority some places,
Yeah,
so.
I mean, those are aching for it, and this is pretty nice up here, so.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I think, you're right, I read that in here somewhere else.
I think it was in the minutes of the field trip
So
that you all took.
what are you suggesting not to prioritize, Jack? Just
No,
so I
I'm
understand.
good.
Okay.
I unfortunately cannot get my frickin' laptop to wake up,
Would you like me to
so.
The other thing that I
pull
thought
them
about,
up here?
somewhere in here, we should link the town's website to locations or pictures, so someone who doesn't know Springdale could look at the website and go, oh, here's where the public art is, and take a tour.
So that's
We can do that.
that's like a little mini project after we get rolling, yeah. I've actually done those before for a university I work for. Those are fun.
Like an art walk.
The town is also doing another, is it a historic tour or something like that? Aren't they?
Yeah, so our Historic Preservation Commission is looking into doing a
A tour?
historic walking tour. We've done one in the past, and recently for one of our 2 cents events, we did a little historic tour. So it's something that is out there and maybe developed by the Historic Preservation Commission further.
St. George had a sculpture walk. I don't know if you knew that or not.
Mhm.
I did, I went on it, so, yes.
It's got a cute name. Huh? Can't remember what it is, yeah. So, yeah, I think that's a great idea down the line, but we need things to look at first. Or more things.
So they are identified right at the start of this memorandum,
Yep.
and a priority somewhat established. Okay.
So,
Which actually I think is good, and I don't want to get back on the budget. But I do think that it's important as part of the request to add money is that we actually have something in mind. Here's what we're shooting for.
okay, so in this locations for public art section, we want a little bit of information on how you've prioritized these locations, but that doesn't necessarily bind you to this is absolutely where we have to put it, but it's maybe just helpful as we move forward that it's recorded where those priorities are.
Well, I felt part of it is, because you've been talking about sculptures, and those are large usually. And I thought, well, this really, when you went on your tour, is looking where would a large sculpture or large sculptural piece go? But if we get donation of art, photos, ceramic pieces, or whatever, and again, I think that's somewhere down the line that this committee could vet stuff, and figure out where it might go. So I thought that your tour more, because you're going to have, I just walked through the library to see if there was any space in the library, but they're pretty well full up, and I'm not sure what's in the other public spaces. You have places like when you go into City Hall, you go into the reception area. So my feeling was that this, the tour that you all did was looking more at sculptural, larger pieces, even though it incorporated into the, Niall, what was the general plan, the plan you gave us on the walkways and all
The
that stuff?
streetscape plan.
Yeah, and that included benches, that included a lot of other things too, but even benches can be, art, so.
So I apologize. So on the, what you had sent out, Niall, did that include, I don't recall, did that include the River Park?
Yes, it was in
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, where you had mentioned the potential for a sculpture garden in the future or something
Yep.
like that.
Yeah, and I talked to Ryan a little bit about this just briefly last week or recently. And just for us to start thinking about, we've got a project that is in the works and that we're going to have to make some decisions. We still have time, but if we are thinking that we would like to see a sculpture garden somewhere, the sooner that we kind of start to think about it in our mind as it relates to the River Park project, probably the better.
Jack, I need a little, on that, I know that the city bought additional land to expand the park. Is
Yeah.
that what you're talking about?
Yes.
So you're
Yeah.
expanding it?
Yeah.
Okay, and so the city's in the planning session as to what they're gonna do with that park. All right, so if there was a sculpture garden, there might be a certain area that you would
Yes.
signify as that, or that would be the area?
Yeah,
Okay.
okay.
Can we back up just a sec here? You've got Winterland and Paradise Road on these. We did not look at that. I can't visualize where it would go. What are you thinking?
Yeah, you're right. We didn't go to those locations. When I was doing this template, I just listed all of the town-owned rights of way and kind of in the town. So it wasn't necessarily that those are great places, but just for completeness, I kind of threw them in. But yeah, you're right. We didn't go to those places on the tour. So yeah, there's maybe potential for you to consider there. But
Mike, I think any public-owned land probably should be included. It may not be, it may never happen, but,
No, I was just wondering, did we miss something?
Yeah.
Because I can't think of any place on either one of those that would be a good spot, other than the parking lot there for the historic graveyard, which is on, right, somewhere in there. You've got that listed.
yeah, and Tom just reminded me, actually, it was in the streetscape plan that I believe recommended public art could potentially go on those locations. Yeah, as far as the parking lot for the Pioneer Cemetery, the Historic Preservation Commission is working on a little monument there, a plan for a monument there to kind of provide some interpretive information there. So that's
That seems perfect.
that's probably what will go there.
It feels like another one of those situations where we would be competing with a historic cemetery in a pretty spectacular spot, so how would we be adding to it, you know? Kind of like the town sign on the way into town. But interpretive feels perfect for that, yeah.
Okay, so we can include, some information about the locations here and how they are prioritized. The next section here, 4.0, types of public art. So here is kind of an opportunity where you can delve in a little bit to, you know, what you have in mind as far as public art, what you think you want to see.
Am I remembering you, we were talking about the sculpture garden and the park expansion, was there some discussion that maybe we would put things along the trail along the river as well?
On the other side.
That sounds kind of fun, kind of like
Yeah.
the more little Easter eggs to discover, kind of like the tortoises and stuff. Yeah, and then obviously in the form of a bench would be,
Really nice.
yeah,
So that would be included.
function and form.
Lisa, you'd say include that in,
There was, I'm just trying to remind myself that,
Yep.
that was part of the discussion already, yeah. Artsy benches.
So that, I thought that was in here somewhere. The Parker River Park is, but I thought there was something in there about the other side of the river. Am I just thinking of that?
Yeah, on the dog park side of things.
Yeah, so I think there was kind of two ideas there. So one, a more formal sculpture garden in the park itself, and then when you cross the river into the dog park, something more kind of natural and kind of those Easter egg idea that you're talking about there.
Yeah, or like, obviously, yeah, a bench to sit there and watch the river.
and on the types of public art, I thought we did discuss that,
There's town-owned land there.
and you brought it up, I don't know, like performance art, we weren't, what might be considered. Mike, you did, I think, because that came up, I think, at the last meeting, and we specifically got it basically down to what's listed here, so not
Yeah, we're talking about physical things that you can walk around and touch and that kind of stuff.
our, see, yes,
Visual, yeah,
That
Yeah.
lasts more than 2 weeks.
yes.
Or 2 hours.
Yeah,
Not a bench made of sand.
I keep going back to photography. I'm not quite sure on that one, but I guess,
I'm always the one that brings up photography.
okay.
I'm not a photographer, but I know, I have a lot of friends that are, and it is an art form.
Sure.
And I certainly think that it should be considered, and that could be something where there may be somewhere down the line, you would purchase some I mean, you look at the West Gallery, you go into many homes here, people have beautiful photos. I'm not a big photography fan, but I think it needs to be included.
Well, and maybe we need to just make a statement somewhere that public spaces include interior as well as exterior.
Yes, yes.
Yes, so just to kind of delve into that a little bit further, when you're talking about photography, is that, in my mind, I kind of think of indoor spaces. I mean, you can have exterior photography, but is that what you're thinking more
I'm
indoor?
thinking if someone would donate or somewhere down the line, we have, the Art Advisory Board has a lot of funding. There may be opportunities then to purchase, and again, I haven't been in all the buildings. Every time I go in, I look, is there any wall space?
Yeah, that doesn't feel like a hot need to me.
Yeah.
I'm picturing like a baked enamel approach for, like in a mural, because
That
it would
would
be
be
very
great.
weather appropriate. We have
Yeah.
a baked enamel sign for our business, and it's, looks brand new. So you could, you know, with the right person and techniques, you could do really large external baked enamel photography that could be really quite striking. So other than that, I can't
Okay.
quite think how it would be, apart from maybe a donation that has a perfect little wall somewhere or something.
I think, yeah, okay.
What is interactive art? What does that mean?
Like push the button.
I think
So you're-
interactive art.
you're
to
the
me is-
artist.
is where you go someplace and you interact with the art.
Well, we-
And it- I'm sorry, go ahead, Lisa.
Well, a good example, I think, on our tour was, there was kind of quite a wide open space in front of Deluvia, remember, like between the parking lot and the restaurant? And I was like, wow, you could put something like a labyrinth there. And somebody said, or exactly a labyrinth. So a labyrinth would be a perfect example of interactive, I think. Not limited to,
I just didn't know what that meant.
yeah. I mean, the little waterfalls in the, I can't look at water sculptures and not put my fingers in it.
Yeah, or sculpture that, you know, you encourage others to feel,
Yeah,
you know.
kind of
Interactive
tactile.
art, if you ever go to Florence, they've got a pig in in their market, you're supposed to rub its nose for good luck. I think all over they have something statue like that, you rub for good luck.
The Blarney
Buddha-
stone.
Buddha belly. You
Yeah,
rub
the
Buddha
Blarney
belly.
stone,
Okay,
yeah.
I got it.
Okay, so we're on funding.
Okay. So in the template, I pulled together a list of funding sources that I've seen in other public art plans. So, yes, here's some options, all including what we talked about earlier, potentially this fund that, you know, we request rolling over from the town council.
Gosh, I like all of those.
Maybe Tom knows, could you really do an impact fee? You could, okay.
Yeah, I should take that out of the template.
So I guess, you know, the deciding when and how the town, you know, can we just kind of put that on a little bit of a back burner? Let's get comfortable with our plan first. And then I think that puts us in a good position to have that discussion. That's my thought on that. However, some of this is a little bit, time is of the essence, you know, because if we do want to do anything at the River Park, I think, you know, part of that discussion would need to include public input. I know we're gonna have a little bit of discussion on that, but I think we'd wanna reach out to our residents and get a little bit of input on that, on what if they would support something like that. Okay?
Okay. And then finally, maintenance and deaccessioning. So this is just looking at how we're going to be maintaining these pieces of art over time, and you know, if they come to the end of their lives, what we do with them. So yeah, as I said, there is boilerplate language that we can kind of borrow from other plans. I thought the maintenance ideas, there were some interesting ones where some communities set aside a percentage of the project's budget into a dedicated maintenance fund, or you can require artist warranties. So there's kind of various ideas there for how that could work.
Now, well, let me ask you, you already have some, I've noticed on the lamp, I think lampposts leading up to here, you have that mosaic on it. Is there, and that was through funds provided by the city, correct?
I believe so, yeah. I don't know the background of that.
You know what I'm talking about, the mosaics?
Yes, there was a contribution from the town, but it was mostly volunteer
Okay,
artists that put that together. The town purchased the materials and things, but the actual art generation was a community volunteer effort.
okay, then we'll go back to the sculpture piece out in front of the market down here. That was purchased with public funds and is city-owned.
That is correct.
And if there's any maintenance on that, then the city would do whatever needed to be done. It's just like they own it, and isn't there already in the budget for monies for maintaining city-owned property?
Generally, yes. I mean, we have a budget for like grounds and maintenance and building maintenance. So generally, yes, there is nothing specific to, we need a certain amount of funds to make sure that the mosaic lampposts are cleaned or the tile is grouted or whatever it needs to be, right? So if there's a specific maintenance need for a piece of art, that would be good to have a plan for how we're going to do that.
Well, and using that as a specific example, actually, and back to the devil's in the details, my understanding of the Mosaic project was that it was kind of prompted by the one that was begun by Girl Scouts like 26 years ago, and they didn't necessarily proceed with best practices, so the grout was all falling out, and it was turning into a little bit of an eyesore. And so then when Jan and Cornelia kind of led that project again, they dedicated a lot of time to doing things right with exactly the right materials and processes, and guided each volunteer artist through that process, so that there was kind of a baked in durability to the project, and we would obviously want to kind of appropriately interview any project that went in that it had a good fighting chance from the beginning. And a small footnote to that too, I think all of the tiles that were involved were donated from a local vendor down in St. George or something, so that was part of it too. Just to kind of give you a picture of how that came about and got improved upon. Does that sound correct?
Lisa, I'm thinking major pieces, if you're looking at a major sculpture like the one in front of the market, and you are here in where the climate changes, and it can be harsh on pieces, especially, and I'm not sure if it's stone, correct, with some metal, I don't know, I think that's what I'm saying, if you have a publicly owned piece of art, sculpture, whatever, there should be some money available to maintain if it needs maintaining. Now, some things don't, a lot of bronze pieces you have go on forever, but there may be something where some kind of maintenance needs to be done on it. And there should be some kind of funds through the city available for city-owned art pieces.
No, I think we all agree with that, and
Yeah.
that's a great idea. And also start with a really good foundation of
Right.
processes and materials. Don't choose a material that's not appropriate.
I agree with you.
Like, I'm back to the baked enamel as an example, or the stone and iron, right? So if we start well, and also maybe earmark, whether it's for vandalism or whatever, hopefully we can delay decommissioning as long as possible. So.
Well, and I think, kind of that selection of materials is really critical, because we don't, I wish Ryan was here, but I know that, we want to make sure that we don't have pieces that require a high level of maintenance that needs to be done by the town maintenance staff.
Got it.
But I would say that I think the one thing too that makes outdoor sculpture appealing over time is how it weathers, you know, so it's, but yeah, I think we definitely recognize maintenance as an important component.
And if you look at the Ivans, I keep going back to that. They have a great section on maintenance, how to pay for it. They have an annual review by their art board that walks around and says, this one's falling apart, we need to do something. So there's an accountability that happens every year. I think they did a great job.
Yeah, there's no point in reinventing it all.
Good.
We need more work anyway.
Yeah. Always.
Great, okay, well, yeah, that's useful. And I will also pull up the Ivans plan, because it sounds like they have some great processes in place.
Yeah, because I guess I'm kind of wondering is, what do you think about the idea of actually pulling some of the components we've discussed and actually inserting it into a template that looks very similar to the Ivans plan?
Okay.
Put some quotes around it.
Just kind of visually, that I don't have in my mind what their plan looks like, but it's just like the layout and everything, by the sounds of things, is very good.
It's way more than we need, I think, but the bullet points are exactly what we're talking about.
I guess I like that idea because I think since this is so fresh and new for us, you know, there's things that we're probably not thinking about that they've already covered, and let's not, reinvent it.
Yeah, absolutely. I can compare that and pull across.
Oh, I guess the one thing we didn't talk about was, you had mentioned earlier, public input, and talking a little bit about what that looks like.
Yes, so I think, there's lots of different options you could take as far as kind of getting public input. Whether you want to get a draft plan and kind of send it out there to the community, get comments, have a drop-in session, or, even something more basic about a session just on public art more generally to get people's feelings on what they like, what they don't like.
I guess I was kind of wondering, maybe we should really think about that before we get too deep into this. And I'm always just a big fan of listening sessions and the idea of having a public meeting where, just the idea is presented and then just listen to what residents might have to say about that.
I was thinking, because I wrote myself a little message, on, again, because we were talking so much about sculptural pieces, if there was a call for people to submit whatever we were interested in for a sculptural piece, the Art Advisory Board could review and vet out 3 pieces or 1 piece. And usually someone that's doing a sculptural piece will do a small little model of it. And you could actually put that on display. It could be in the city hall, it could be in here, it could be in the library, where you could have the people, residents come in and look at it, and they can make comments on it. I was involved years ago at Dana Point. They did a statue of Richard Henry Dana. And they did something like that, and then it was funded through donations, whether it be the Lions Club or wherever money the city provided, so that you would actually, and again, this is just me, we're not really into that point yet, but if there were 3 pieces that you thought that the Art Advisory Board sort of got it down to and vetted it out, then you could have whatever, models were made for someone to come in and look, because obviously each of us has unique taste. And we may not all agree on what type of art is, and also on sculptural pieces. And no matter what you do, someone's not going to be happy. That's just the way it is. And when you fund something and then you put it out there without getting the input, then you are leaving yourself open for a lot of criticism. I know that there are probably sculptural pieces in this town that probably didn't go over well with some of the residents, so.
Well, so maybe, that is when we get to that point
Yes.
of what a call actually looks like, and then the follow-up to it. But I guess maybe going back a little bit to the idea of the introduction of a public art plan to our residents, and is there value in doing that?
Yeah, this is a really helpful discussion, because, I think, as you say, there's two different things, aren't there? There's one about getting the public's input on this specific plan, but then equally down the line, how to get the public's input on a call for public
Right.
art. And I think both are really important.
Yeah.
And maybe in the plan, we could include a little bit of information on how we would get the public involved in the call for art down the road. And obviously the stage we're at now is more that initial stage of what does the community think of the public art plan.
Well, or would it make more sense, like, I certainly have not gotten any kind of a sense that a public art plan or our public art review committee is like as controversial as, like, say, a history center. But does it make more sense to have the public have something to react to? And so once we got maybe a draft plan, that's when we actually send it out and get some input. What do you guys think?
I think that's a good idea, but again, Jack, there'll be some people that think it's just plain foolishness. So, that's what you're gonna get. So,
Yeah.
I think that the city council made it very clear that they wanted Springdale to be known as and correct me, Barbara, if I'm wrong, an art, and support the art and have public art. And as a committee, we were appointed, and it seems to me that from the city councils indicated to us, this is something that they want us to follow through with and go forward with. I don't think it's necessarily getting input. Do you think we should do it or not?
No, that's not my point. It's to actually have input from our residents to help inform the plan.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was interesting that you used the word react to, and I was like, react, like, we're trying to sort of thread this needle of, are they feeling like they're part of the process, as opposed to we've just handed them
Handed to
something
them.
that they react to, right?
Yeah.
And that
Oh, I
it's
see.
like,
Mhm.
I'm not niggling with your details, your word
Word choice.
Well, it helped us maybe define that delicate dance we're trying to do.
Well, or for somebody who's not familiar with the public art plan at all,
Right.
to say,
Well,
you know,
we
what do
need-
you think?
Exactly, we need something to start with,
Right,
right?
right, right.
And it was like, we would like them to feel involved, but that we need to start with some,
Yeah.
yeah.
I think more sunshine is better.
Yeah, for sure.
And ultimately, in the end, it's not a democracy. We're gonna make decisions.
Right, right.
But
Yep.
getting a buy-in, getting input, getting suggestions, there's no downside to that.
Sure.
Respond versus react, I think that's what we're looking for, right?
Yeah,
Where they feel like
Yeah.
it's not being thrust upon them.
I think reaction is down the road when we actually have pieces of art, of sculpture.
Right,
So.
yes, Jim's
Okay.
not wrong, that we won't be replacing everything, yeah.
Which brings up another point. Is there in code a description of how boards like this are created, terms, authority, that kind of stuff? When's our terms up?
You're locked in.
That's why I'm asking.
Do you have
It's
that
a year,
information? Aaron?
it's a 1 year, I think, right?
Is it?
Is it 2 years or 1 year?
1 year.
Okay.
Just asking.
Yeah.
No, Barbara, is it 1 year or is it 2 years?
I know, I can't remember.
I think it's 1.
But we were all seated
Right.
concurrently, right?
Yes.
Yeah, it doesn't mean you can't do it again, but it is.
Right, but if we all roll off in a year, then we gotta start all over again.
Well, but you're appointed by the city council. They may not like us, and they may change.
So
So, I'm not really, I would still be curious, was it a year or 2 years? I thought it was 2 years.
It is 2 years. So the same policy that Niall referenced earlier, the town's the Town of Springdale Public Art and Art Review Board policy, which is adopted by resolution of the town council, is the authority that establishes your board. And that board says that the members of the Art Review Board serve 2-year terms, which can be renewed with the consent of the town council.
So we're together for 2 years, for better or worse.
I want the record to show that Jack told me we were only gonna have 2 meetings.
That was the carrot.
I know, you lied.
Anyway,
All right.
Because they're an actual commission, they could have a public hearing, I mean, right, they have the ability to have a public hearing.
Yes. So the mayor said, made the comment that as a public body, you operate under the Utah Open and Public Meetings Act. And as a public body, you are welcome to have, this meeting is open to the public, right? Anybody who wants can come. You can also do a public hearing, which is where you say, okay, not only is this meeting open to the public, but we specifically want you to come and participate in this and tell us what you think. That's another option for you as well.
Does
So-
that process have any more weight than a survey or a walk-in or
No, so in some processes, there is a public hearing required,
a?
like particularly with land use processes or budgetary processes, there's a requirement to have a public hearing. There is no requirement for the Art Review Board to have a public hearing on anything, so it doesn't carry any greater weight or have the force of statute behind it, but it is a tool that you can use to get more input.
So what you're saying is that when we get this together, we could actually have another meeting and invite the public and pass out a copy of it, and then without being this, it would still be a formal meeting. So you're saying up and above a meeting like this, we could say, hey, we worked on this art, public art statement, and we can have a meeting, the public's invited, pass out what we've done, have them take a look, and is that what you're indicating? Besides, I mean, as I saw it, we're gonna have 2 meetings a year, but it seems like we're really on a roll, so we're having the, meetings. But after it's all done and we've got it together, could we then have just, besides this meeting, a meeting at, we'll say, 5 o'clock, 5:30 at night, where we would be open to the public, whether anybody would come or not, I have no idea. But
Yes.
at least that would be another form of getting input from the community.
I actually like that.
Yeah.
But a public hearing has real specific guidelines about process, time, that kind of stuff. Very formal.
Another way that you could do it would be to take a less formal approach, to have kind of a drop-in session or a charrette or something where, we could lay out this room with different materials that anybody from the public could come in and give their comments in a less kind of structured, formal way. You know, we could have cookies and drinks to, to encourage people to come along. So that, we could do our public consultation in that kind of a format,
Like that.
or you could go the more formal route.
I like
Um,
that, I like that idea. It feels a little less prickly, and also you could like, because we know you're gonna ask, here's what public art is. Now that we've answered that, let's move on to the other kind of panels and topics and things like that.
Yeah.
And, so it feels a little more friendly that way.
And I would see it as a nighttime meeting rather than, because a lot of people work and they're not gonna be able to make a noon meeting,
Those are, yep.
so.
And if you offer food, they'll be here.
So you
You're
said
right.
we are presenting a statement. I mean, just to be clear, we would have a draft of our
Yeah.
proposal and say, what do you think? This is what we got so far. Anything we're not.
And you know, you got 5, 6 major topics. You got funding, you got what is it, where is it? you know,
Exactly,
that kind of-
exactly. And
And
then,
I'm-
and in nice little buckets, they can stand there and
Right.
read about, yeah.
And we could have some visuals on potential location.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That feels friendly,
I like that.
friendly for everyone.
Yeah. Okay.
Refreshments provided.
TBD.
Yeah. Is there any budget, is there any money in the budget for refreshments?
That's a little down the road.
It is.
The mayor has a credit card,
Yeah,
Okay.
right?
okay.
Always.
So what we can do is we can maybe take this away, come up with some ideas for how this sort of a drop-in session might work, and look at dates and kind of go from there.
I like that.
And then, as you say, yeah, I think it'd be good to have something to share with people who are coming in, so to get this draft plan have a little bit more meat on the bones, so that people have more to comment on. But obviously, you know, presenting it not as a done deal, so people feel they have a genuine voice in the process.
I'm going to back up a little bit on something I said a little bit earlier on how to keep the council informed. We, you know, as you know, Mike, we each have to submit a department report. And so I'll do a summary of this meeting in that department report, and that is how they will stay informed. Okay, so I guess anything else on this topic?
Oh, I'm not on this topic. I just want to know, Neil, do you want us
Topic being meetings.
to give
I
you
know this plan.
ideas? You know, I've been thinking about if we do get a donation, what would be the vetting? What would be the vetting process? I mean, just give you stuff that you could put in, or, I mean, I could write stuff and send it to you. Do you want our more input on things like that? This is starting to get down to, and I hear I'm way off, but we're talking more nitty-gritty stuff, but if we could at least, I could send you some stuff and you would have it, I don't know. Or would you like that or not?
Yeah, I would welcome any ideas or input from you all
Okay.
on any of these topics. That would be great, and you can, you know, write in or email or whatever. That's great. And I think what I'll do following this meeting, I've been taking notes of your discussion, so I'll be able to improve the template and move it along. If anything else occurs, by all means, send it over. And then we can look at dates for this public consultation session that we'll do. And then following that,
Does it, I haven't looked side by side on your template versus the Ivan's finished product. And I don't know how they overlay, but I really like Mike's idea of just like, let's just copy it. Is there a way to
Don't
just
use
kind
that
of?
word.
I mean, and obviously we need to go through and say, well, that doesn't fit, so let's remove that or whatever. But, that might be an approach. It sounds like it's the ball's back in your court, and then you're gonna be sending us a template, but maybe if we all agree, that might be a great way to,
Yeah, I mean, I'll certainly pull open the Ivans report and,
and
Yeah.
you might know more than we do,
See what we
things
can-
that, things that are irrelevant and don't apply or whatever.
yeah, see how we can kind of draw on the good work that they've done.
Mhm.
Okay, anything else on our public art plan?
We have that consent.
Yeah, so we have one more item, and that is approval of the consent agenda, which is approval of minutes from September 15th, 2025. Would someone like to make a motion?
Were there any changes to what you put out? No? Okay.
I so
move we
moved.
accept the minutes of the September 15th Art Review Board meeting as drafted.
Second.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. And a motion to adjourn. Anybody? I'm not making.
Aye. Yes, yes.
Aye, okay.
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have any idea, Jack, when the next meeting might be?